of Evelyn Hugo, take 1. So what are you making for us, Kelsey?
I am making a Saint Germain cocktail.
Ooh,
we're getting fancy today.
Super fancy. Ice here into here. Got about 2 ounces gin.
And this is for 2 drinks.
Yes,
right?
2,
or just 1 very strong one.
or 1 very strong, very large drink. Right, now 2 ounces of the Saint Germain liqueur, which is elderflower based.
Ooh.
I'm excited for this. I haven't had this before.
She mentioned Saint Germain in the book.
She does. So we have the gin and the Saint Germain. So 1.5 ounces of lemon juice. But fun fact about Saint Germain and elderflowers, elderflower is a good for cold remedy, and it can reduce inflammation when you're sick.
Wow. So we're being healthy.
It's another healthy drink.
We're so good at that.
That'd be fun.
It's really good for you. Good for your constitution. It's beautiful.
Top it off with the champagne. So we're using Prosecco today, but you can use any type of champagne or sparkling wine. Oh God.
Oh! Yay!
Yay! That was awesome. I love that sound.
And then we just top off. Oh, there we go.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Kelsey, that was beautiful. Oh my gosh, and I'm even being served.
Thank you. Oh my gosh.
As you can see, we are very much embracing Evelyn's signature color this month. Let's start with the drink recipe. Our recommended cocktail is the Saint Germain Champagne Cocktail, which, along with the champagne, features Saint Germain, an elderflower liqueur. We've even included a champagne flute that you can decorate with gold paint. Finally, you'll receive 2 bookish accessories: a bookmark featuring a significant quote from the book, as well as a book art print that you can frame or display in some way. We hope you enjoy.
Okay, why don't we move on to the book?
I think that's a great idea.
So what did you enjoy about the book?
I liked that it didn't take her the entire book to establish herself as bisexual and just go for a relationship. Do you know what I mean? So we had more time to love the characters together as a couple, even though there was bumps in the road.
Yeah, sure, ups and downs.
Yeah. More established rather than the ending of the book being them coming together.
Exactly. Right. I also like that she was very clear about being bisexual.
Yeah, the label, the whole idea of labeling.
Absolutely.
A lot in the book.
Yeah.
And even now, there's a lot of bisexual drag queens. You know, they're seen apart even from LGBT communities sometimes because people can't see someone liking both rather than just one or the other, whatever that might be.
Celia obviously felt that way.
Yeah.
It took her a while to be comfortable with that.
It was interesting to me for them to establish her partner having so much trouble with her bisexuality, rather than just the general public. So we talked about it rather than just kind of glossing over the fact that she was bisexual and Celia was lesbian.
And how that made her feel. I like that the characters were so nuanced. That was awesome. Because you didn't love or hate them. It was like, oh, I hate that you're acting this way, or I love that you did this, or do you know what I'm saying?
It just
like,
felt more authentic.
So authentic.
Yeah.
I do. She writes good characters. And for so much characterization and character development to happen in not a lot of, I mean, it wasn't.
Well, it covered
doorstop.
like her entire lifetime essentially, right?
Yeah.
So even that kind of depth, I think, was admirable.
I was reading that the author was inspired by Elizabeth Taylor and Rita Hayworth. Those were like her inspirations for writing a character that got married so many times and really lived by her own rules in a time when there were a lot of rules to follow.
Absolutely.
I think when all is said and done, though, I liked her character. I didn't come away from the book hating her.
Well, she was in control, like pretty much every
Yes.
step of the way. From Ernie, her first husband, you know, she wanted to get out of Hell's Kitchen, all the way to the end. I mean, she's very cunning.
I wonder if that's like, it felt like grief really hit her hard. Not that it wouldn't because of the situations that she was in every time, but like that she mentioned twice about losing control, the devastating luxury of panic. She mentioned it like every time after, like when Harry died, when Celia died, and when her daughter died. And I think, I was wondering if it's because she has such control in all the other aspects of her life, that in grief, it's the only time that she can lose control.
Well, and it's the only thing she can't control ever. Either.
That's true too.
She was able to control pretty much everything else. Death became control.
Did you sort of try and predict along the way what Monique's connection was?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, but I really don't think, because I was sort of skimming it over for a second time, and I don't think you can really predict until,
No,
because there are certain pieces that aren't revealed until later.
absolutely.
There's really no way to predict.
And I felt like she did it, the author does a great job of poking holes in what you think it could be.
Yeah.
It was good. I do think that she's a good writer.
I think
tells
so,
a good
too.
story.
Yes.
She tells a good story. It was very cleverly laid out.
Because I feel like Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author, is very careful about those type of things. And there are some authors who nothing they say is coincidental in a book. And I feel like that this book is that type because of the assisted suicide, Monique's father, everything. So everything's fitting in my brain.
I love Harry.
I know. He got her in a way that Celia never did.
Yeah, I agree.
I felt like all together, I mean, it wasn't perfect when, you know, she was married to Harry and Celia and John were married. But it just worked so well.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, what did you guys think of Monique, like herself? I know that the book is focused obviously a lot on Evelyn and her life, but what did you think of Monique as a character?
I mean, like the others, I think there was a lot of depth, there was a lot of complexity. She kind of starts out really unsure of herself. She's sort of going through this divorce, feeling like crap.
Yeah.
Wondering if she made this mistake and why her husband left her and everything. But Evelyn really helps her deal with that. It helps her grow and become more confident and to kind of take what she wants out of life. So,
And that's what makes
I
it
thought
so
that was-
hard. It makes it so hard because she does such an awful thing.
yeah,
It's such an awful thing.
yeah,
But she learns so much from her and she gains so much confidence from her. And like she learns how to Evelyn Hugo,
right.
right?
And the interaction with David, when David came,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the growth.
absolutely.
And negotiating for her job. And like, she's like, you can see she's taking the world by storm at the end.
Right.
But is it enough?
Her story's not over.
It's true.
We can imagine.
Evelyn Hugo, the sequel. Monique Grant.
See, there you go. Monique will be like 80 years old,
Yeah.
you know, with a tell-all coming out. What did you think about all of the bullshit you can
And
that Evelyn had to go through? I mean, this was like a feminist book.
Oh,
We're talking about the relationships, but
Absolutely.
what about all the crap?
I know.
I mean, like every little thing that women have to go through, particularly somebody in her position.
Yeah.
The way that the newspapers treated her, because you got like her perspective, and then you saw what was being printed in the newspapers. Like, oh, she's a whore.
Yeah.
She doesn't want kids.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting jealous, and that's why Dawn, you know,
I know.
left her. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I do feel like the little news excerpts between chapters or between phases were very helpful to show a rounded picture of
Yeah.
everything.
The media gaze and what they were missing too.
Right.
You know?
Because we don't know everything going on behind the scenes of anyone's life, let alone a famous person.
But the media thinks they do.
Of course they do.
Well, and I think just people in general think they do too.
Yeah, that's true.
We judge too much. We judge women too much.
I did feel for her, like, as she was talking about getting older and how Harry was aging and he, you know, was getting more gray in his hair. And she was like, he looks so good. And people know that. Like, they look at this man and they're like, he is very attractive. And she's like fighting it tooth and nail. And it's criticized constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
She had work done.
Mm-hmm. She does go through a lot of crap. And I do love that the book, it's almost a little cheeky that the title is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's not about them. And every
Right.
chapter was centered around the husband, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it was a little like,
Mm-hmm.
So many times someone is, like, a famous woman has been, like, George Clooney's wife, or like some example like that. You know, it's always been, even though they're famous in their own right. So then to have it kind of switched and have it be Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I liked it.
yeah. I like how she took the reins though on her career when it was kind of down the tubes after Dawn, and he like sabotaged her. And then she made the decision to make the movie that was a little more risque, and she was in control of like the sexuality of it and the nudity, and you know what I mean? I know it was his idea, Max's idea, but she really took hold of that.
Well, she was coming from a place that was keeping her so innocent yet so desirable too, so it was kind of freeing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, at least a little bit for her. In the way of
Oh, the
social
themes.
Yeah.
Abuse, sexism, feminism, classism, racism. I'm out.
That's enough. Like,
Right.
That's enough to cover hours. and hours of
Ageism.
conversation.
Ooh.
Hmm.
All the isms, basically.
Oh, there's an Easter egg for our upcoming next Library Libations in this book.
Oh!
Little women.
That's right. Yes.
Maybe
I forgot
not
about
her
that.
biggest role, but one of her bigger roles that she played.
That she should have been.
She won an Oscar for, right?
She did not.
No.
Because of the
Oh,
patriarchy.
that's right. She won her first Oscar for.
It came later. It was the movie that Harry worked on.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called.
Oh no, I mean Celia won.
Oh, Celia won.
An
Celia
Oscar.
did win an
Yeah,
for Little
playing
Women.
Beth.
Yes. Sorry, I should have been clear which her I meant.
But Evelyn didn't because of Dawn.
Stupid
I know.
sexism.
Seriously.
That was one thing I didn't expect, was him coming back into the picture and like in person. Like I always knew that he probably would be mentioned again for a lot of her life, but I never thought he'd actually come back to the picture as an actor playing across from Evelyn.
Right.
So that's interesting.
And that she would agree to
I
be
know.
involved in
That
a
was
project like that.
Gutsy move.
Although she didn't really, it was. So the relationship with Celia and Evelyn, I think we sort of touched a little bit in the beginning on this, but they had a lot of ups and downs over the years.
Yeah.
And this one, in regards to this movie, was probably the biggest sort of breakup I think that they had.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you think about that?
I wonder what was going through her head. She doesn't really tell you what she was thinking necessarily. Evelyn, I should be more specific. So we don't. Evelyn knows, looking back on it, the hindsight's 20/20, and she should have asked her permission like before she did it.
I kind of, and I know at the end of the book they sort of go back and discuss this and everything's okay, they sort of reconcile, but like I was on Evelyn's side all the way. I just have to say that.
I agree.
She kept saying how she ruined everything. And yeah, maybe she should have, discussed it in advance or let her know before she did it. But this was such a big deal. I mean,
And what if the situation had been like a man asking her? Do you know what I'm saying? Would a man have asked his wife's permission to do something like this in Hollywood at that time?
not that,
Absolutely not.
certainly
Would
not
Dawn
at
have
that
come
time.
home and said, Evelyn, I'm going to do this racy sex scene. Are you cool with that?
Well, he did before he started like screwing the
Right.
extra or whatever. So I'm gonna guess not.
You know what I mean? So it felt very double standardy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that as a decent human being in a relationship of importance, it was a nice gesture
Mm-hmm.
to want to include the partner in that.
Absolutely. That also points to a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit of toxicity in the relationship at the time, because obviously Celia didn't trust her enough to, like, that was a big part of why she didn't want it to happen.
Yeah.
Because which I guess brings it back to the whole bisexual versus lesbian aspect at that time. She didn't trust her because Evelyn was bisexual and she could sleep with a man if she wanted to.
And based on that track record, maybe Evelyn knew if I ask her, she's going to say no. You know, this is what we were saying the other day. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe she just tried to play that card and it didn't work out.
She hoped for the best.
Yeah. And did not prepare for the worst. And you can see that I think Celia regrets that in the end.
I kind of feel, I know they lost a lot of years together, but I kind of feel like everything sort of worked out. Maybe not everything.
Yeah.
A lot of it worked out how it was meant to.
I think as good as you could hope for in that time period, for sure, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people didn't get that opportunity to even pretend to be together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, pretend not to be together even though they're together. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, and they found these two men that were sort of in a similar situation, that were happy to kind of work everything out. It's amazing.
It is.
There was obviously a lot of growth between them during the times apart as well as together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
To Evelyn and Celia,